Well, we are fortunate to have Todd McShay from The Ringer with us to break down and preview the NFL draft, someone who I have known for the better part of 2 decades. We have worked numerous drafts together. We have worked numerous college football games together. So we go way back. So we're just kicking around some stuff beforehand. Like I think one of my favorite memories was that Chicago draft in 2015 where we started out on Thursday inside. We went outside and the rain was coming down sideways. And then Saturday was Kentucky Derby day. So, like, I'm firing on the Derby and, like, you're walking up. Time to just get up, stretch your break. You're walking over what's going on in the races. So that 2015 Chicago draft was an all-timer.
So the Ringer came to me right there. And they're like, we can go to Green Bay. We'll get a set and do all of that, but we just want to pitch. Like, we've got these really nice studios out in LA. Might be less complicated. There's 250,000 people going to Green Bay this year. It's a town that only holds like 130,000 that normally live there. And like, I cut him off halfway through and was like, we're going to LA. And you know why? Because of that draft. I'll never forget. So we're out there, we're outside. And I want to say the first day we had, like the first night, it was like 65 and sunny and there were like crowds around and it was beautiful. And then we got up the next day and it was like 37 degrees. The rain was literally coming in sideways. I had all my notes, they were soaking wet. Like the ink is dripping. They sent Schefter and I in the building in a commercial break. They got the golf carts and they raced us over. We go up there. Schefter and I are hosting the second night of the draft for like 40 minutes as they moved the entire set inside. But I do remember distinctly, and it wasn't the only year, Bear. On Saturday of that draft, I could never figure, how is it that he's getting me all these stats and handing me these critical things that I'm able to use and make me look good on TV? But like, you weren't just on Churchill Downs that day. You had Keeneland. You had like 5 races going on, and I got this horse, but I was always fascinated by how you could kind of multitask the NFL draft on network television while also winning horse races all around the country.
You got to make sure you've got Aqueduct and Oaklawn and all the other tracks going as well. I mean, that's sometimes it's like. I don't want to go too horse racing because I don't want to take up all your time on that. But that's like so a lot of times my favorite races on the Derby card are the 2 races after the Derby because it's usually like a maiden race and like a first level allowance where we can where you can make your money. But we're here to talk about potentially making money in the NFL draft. We could talk about stories forever, and it seems like for the most part. We're hearing Ward 1, Hunter 2, Carter 3, Campbell 4, and then 5 is kind of where things get a little weird. Like, is that accurate? Do we think there could be a little bit of a curveball in that top 4, or do we really do think the draft does begin at 5?
I think it does begin at 5. And what's fascinating to, I'm sure people who are watching this show for those purposes, right? But also to NFL teams is, all right, we got this draft where, and just about every GM and personnel person that I speak to, it's like there's about 7 to 9 guys that are up near the top. You can put them in different tiers. I mean, I think Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter are kind of in their own little tier. And then after that, you've got Ashton Ginty, the 2 tight ends, Warren and Loveland. You've got Jalen Walker, and some teams have Mykel Williams up there as well, edge rusher. You've got Mason Graham. Right. So that's kind of that top tier, if you will, of like 7 to 9 guys. Well, all of a sudden, and most people in the league you talk to say, like, yeah, there's some good tackles, but like maybe they're guards, maybe they're right tackles. Like Campbell for a lot of teams is a guard. Armand Membu's a right tackle by trade. And Geoff, you would understand that. But these tackles might have been like the 5th or 6th tackle last year. These wide receivers would have started off at 5th. If you go back to like Marvin Harrison Jr., Neighbors, Odunze, and Brian Thomas Jr. So we're talking the jumping off point is 5. But what happens if at pick 5 or pick 4, like everyone's predicting, it's Will Campbell. So not one of those top 9 players. Then at pick 5, if you brought in Liam Cohen, you got a quarterback who's struggling, trying to fix Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence, and you'll remember this, Bear. 2018, 2019. Remember those years he had at Clemson? Like barely ever lost.
Yep.
He had two receivers, Justin Ross, T. Higgins, 6'4" receivers, 4,000 receiving yards, 42 receiving touchdowns. Well, who fits that mold if we're trying to fix Trevor? I'm not in agreement with the pick, but there's a lot of smoke that Teteroa McMillan, the wide receiver from Arizona, also 6'4", big catch radius for a quarterback who's not been pinpoint accurate, could be the pick at 5. So now we got an offensive tackle that doesn't belong in that top 9. Now we've got a wide receiver, doesn't belong in the top 9. And then we get to 6 and everyone's mocked because it was Mason Graham to Jacksonville for months. And who knows, maybe it still will, but like I'm getting strong indicators. It's not Mason Graham at 5 to Jacksonville, and it's not Ashton Ginty 6 to Las Vegas. And so now, and if that's offensive tackle Membu or one of the edge rushers, now you're bumping all these really good players down. Now all of a sudden you get to pick 7 with the Jets, right? And Tyler Warren's in play there from what I understand, but there's also, Aaron Glenn, just like Liam Cohen in Jacksonville, Aaron Glenn's coming in, defensive coach. Let's get a lead on that side of the ball. Let's get a difference maker. Maybe it's another edge rusher. Maybe it's Mason Graham sitting there. They didn't expect him to be there. Maybe it's Jahdae Barron's a name I've heard been kicked around. So then you get down to number 8, and the edge rusher could be there that they wanted, or Jalen Walker could be gone. It could be Mykel Williams. Then at 9, it's not a quarterback. I know Derek Carr, the situation. It's not Shedeur Sanders, whether it's at 9 or 40, is what I'm told. And that's Kellen Moore. He's had 3 OC jobs. It's been with Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts, and Justin Herbert. Bigger, sturdier, stronger arm, mobile guys. That's Jackson Dart. So now
will they take Dart at 9?
No, that's what I'm told. Now maybe I could be wrong, but I'm told it's not Dart at 9. They want to get Cam Jordan's replacement. I think Mykel Williams makes the most sense there. I've also heard offensive tackle as a possibility. So again, now you get down to Chicago. The Bears could theoretically, in this scenario, be sitting there at 10 and have Ashton Ginty, Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland, and maybe even Mason Graham sitting there. 4 of the top 7 to 9 players in this entire draft class. So this thing's going to be fascinating. And I know everyone wants to ask about Shedeur. We can get into the quarterbacks in a minute. But when you say it starts at 5, that run from 5 to 10 is going to be wild. Yeah.
Any chance Loveland goes before Warren? There's been some chatter about that this week as we sort of get more inside information on what teams are thinking. I think a lot of people thought Warren was tight end 1. It does feel like Loveland might be catching up, or some teams have him ahead.
That's a great question, Geoff. I won't rule it out. I won't. And you'll understand, like there's kind of like the Gronk tree everyone likes to say, and then there's like the Kelsey tree, okay? And essentially it's like a Y and an F, right?
Yes.
I mean, let's not overcomplicate this thing. So what are you looking for, right? And we got this Y tight end in Warren, who, and both these guys, Warren's a better blocker than Loveland. Yeah. Neither right now is their strength. Let's just put it that way. But Warren's a big, physical, athletic dude at 6'5.5", 260 plus pounds, rumbling and breaking tackles, but also making guys miss a little bit after the catch. So that's what he brings. Loveland is like one of the better route running, separating tight ends that you'll see coming out of college. And he's just turning 21, I think, this month. So there's some teams, and I think about Ben Johnson, right? Let's say Genty's not there. You've got Cole Kmet. You think about Ben Johnson in the lab with a young quarterback who needs to be kind of like propped back up. And what would be better than having 12 personnel and having a safety valve, So I won't rule it out. I certainly won't. And I think what the Bears could, if this is the situation, if Tet does go at 5, and if it's not Ginty at 6 to the Raiders, the Bears are the biggest winners for me. But then also the Colts were sitting there for a while. Like, what if Warren goes 7 and Loveland goes 10? We're out on a tight end. They could have one, if not both, those guys at 14. But I just can't see a scenario where 2 of the top 7 to 9 players in this draft wind up there at 14. But to answer your question, and I know why we're asking the question, I wouldn't lay it heavy anymore on Warren being tight end one, even though I do think that will be the case. But there's plenty of other ways to chase this thing.
Yeah, and I think there's actually a good plus number on Loveland potentially to be the number one tight end, because I think it's been foreseen it's going to be Warren for a while, but at the top of the draft, in terms of the quarterbacks, everybody's talking about the quarterbacks, and everybody wants to know about the quarterbacks. And take one, should you not take one, over picking or whatever. We know Ward's going to go number one. The over-under for first-round quarterbacks is 2.5. It's juiced pretty heavy to the over, so we know Ward won. Or I guess I'll ask a couple of different things, and you can answer them in any direction you want. Are we going to get 3? And I guess my second part of that is, are the Steelers kind of in a position to take a quarterback where they don't have a second-round pick? You can't go into the season with the roster, the quarterback depth chart that they have. It doesn't look like Aaron Rodgers is going to go there. It feels like the Steelers are a very likely landing spot for a quarterback.
It does, right? But I would caution this. Just first of all, the intel I'm getting, I do believe that Mike Tomlin is a big fan of Shedor's. I do believe there's love in the building for Shedor. My most recent information is that, like, we all assume 21's the floor. It's a hard floor, right? Shedor, if he's going to get past 9, I think finally for 2 weeks I've been saying he's not going 9 to New Orleans. You and I have been texting. He's not going 9 to New Orleans. He's not going 40 to. Okay. You either in Oregon is like whoever's making the decision. You either are in on a guy or you're not at that position, right? There's no like rank. It's like this is our guy. So unless a team trades up between 10 and 20, everyone was looking at 21 for Pittsburgh. But then there was talk like, well, maybe the Giants will move up to 15 with Atlanta. We only have 5 picks in the draft. Maybe the Browns want to reunite Travis Hunter and Shedor. Maybe they'll move up. I don't think the Giants. Brian Daboll, it doesn't make sense being a Shedor guy. Let's leave it at that. Okay. Now, the personnel department, more Shedor. Coaching staff, more Jackson Dart and maybe other quarterbacks. Okay. So how does that tiebreaker, is that ownership coming in because it has to? I've been told the Mara family is staying out of this for now. That doesn't mean
for you added a for now.
For now. But sometimes you have to get involved when there's two parties that are kind of tugging at it. So that's going to be fascinating. But at the end of the day, I think 21 is the next spot that is reasonable. But the floor is softer than I thought. Even when I got on the plane Sunday morning versus a couple calls after I got off the plane Sunday night when I landed in LA, the floor is a lot softer than I thought. And so if he doesn't go 21, and don't be surprised if Pittsburgh tries to dangle it and get a team like the Giants or the Browns or another team that was unexpected to move up because they do not have the second round pick, as you said. I don't know, man. We've said all along, this is not a great quarterback class. You got late first round, early second round grades on these guys. And everyone said, well, the Giants, they grabbed the Mara plane. They went to, they flew to the Boulder and then to Tuscaloosa and then to Louisville. That was for the second tier. It was for the second wave of quarterbacks. And so I just think that there could be one of those like old situations, like, so we'll see. But I said it the other day and I stick with it. Like I'd be much more inclined to say one quarterback in the first round right now than I would be 3. But what scares me is we get down to picks like 29, 30, 31, 32. And you're like, all right, we only have to move up 5 spots. It's going to cost us like a 4th round pick. Let's just go do that. So if it were to go over 2.5, from everything I'm getting, it would be something real late in the first round where a team is also trying to get that 5th-year option on a quarterback. But right now, I don't feel good about saying it's going to go over 2.5 at all.
I'm going to have to buy back a little heavy juice there at over 2.5 a couple weeks back.
Bear, I'm going to found you a wager to make. I think it's hard to make wagers now, but Todd, under 6.5 offensive linemen, if you do the math in your head to get to 7, so I think we have 5 for sure, right? Campbell, Membo, Banks, Connerly, Zabel. Simmons, I think, is a 50-50, right? And then
let's
Campbell,
Membu, okay,
Banks,
yep, 13 I think for Banks, Miami.
Connerly.
I hope. I like Connerly a lot.
Okay,
so let's table him for a second.
Okay, so that's 3. Simmons, Zabel's 4, right? And Simmons to 50-50.
Yeah, I agree. There's some stuff there. Yes. I think he's too talented to get out of the first.
Okay, so that's 5.
That's 5. Who else do we have?
Booker is a maybe, right?
He's a maybe. And I'm thinking less. I'm way less likely he's going to go in the first now than I ever did in this process.
Right. So that's we just mentioned 7 guys. That was it, and we have like 4.5 yeses, and like 4.5 yeses.
Yeah. Connerly, I could see. The problem is a few of those teams right towards the end could use an offensive lineman. Seahawks at 18.
Yeah, but they'll take Zabel probably.
They'll take Zabel. Yep. Yeah. Houston's at what, 25?
Yeah.
But when the tackles run out, they run out. That's the problem. They may not belong. So 6 is, I mean, it's a good number. They said a good number. I still would lean under, because that gets us to Connerly. That's 6, right?
That's 6. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it would take Booker to make it 7.
Or the Chiefs at 31 panic and take like the kid from Minnesota for some reason, which they should not do, in my opinion. But it comes down to Chiefs, I think, maybe being the lynch point at 31.
I think Chiefs are going interior defensive line. But
thank you. You're the first person who said this. I've been mocking defensive tackle for the Chiefs for months now because everyone focused on the offensive line of the Super Bowl. They did not touch Jalen Hurts at all, 0 times in the entire Super Bowl. They need another Chris Jones. So I'm glad you said it, because the Chiefs to get a defensive lineman is still plus money right now if you're looking to wager on that.
I would run with that. I actually would.
Yeah, because I think you're in a position there where you may have your choice of what? Grant, Nolan, Skirton, like they're all potentially.
I think Grant could go earlier to the Chargers. Nolan could go as high as 15, but he's got some flags, some red flags that's a volatile market there.
Right. I don't want to do this to anyone, but I hope there's some sort of like Derek Harmon drop for whatever reason that goes to 31. It's never going to happen, Todd, but I hope we can find a way to get him to Kansas City, because that's the one I want the Chiefs to draft, is Derek Harmon. I think
that would be a lot of fun to watch.
He's a very good football player.
Yeah, he is a very good football player. Really good pass rusher.
Where are you with the wide receivers? Because you hear everybody, it's not a great wide receiver class. We talked about Tet maybe going 5, then you would assume Matthew Golden goes 12 to Dallas. Are we going to get Emeka Egbuka in there as the 3rd wide receiver? Because he's the type of guy who, when you meet him, it's like you fall in love with the kid. He's a great route runner. Like, is that someone maybe like, could he maybe go as high as 24 to the Chargers? Is that, could he maybe go there to give Herbert a little bit of a weapon?
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't shock me. I think he's going to go in the 1st round. I think those are the 3. I think Jaden Higgins, his running mate, Jalen Noel, I love both those guys, but I think it's probably 2nd round. What's the number for wide receivers in the 1st?
It's 2.5. It is juice to the under.
Take the over.
There we go. I like it.
Take the over. Take the over on that. Because it wouldn't shock me too if we got late in the 1st and the team just plucked a Higgins or a Noel or someone like that. Like I don't expect it, but I would be really surprised. Like, here's with Emeka Egbuka, it's the same vibes that everyone was giving out from Columbus on Terry McLaurin. And we made that mistake once. I just think you watch him on tape, there's no elite standout trait, but it's like I made the analogy at one point, and it's kind of stupid, but like, it's like that friend you have, like in a group of friends where it's like this girl who like, she's the funniest girl. She's like the most fun to hang out with. She's trustworthy. She's always there for you. Like, and then you realize like maybe I like her more than just a buddy, And it's like that's like studying tape on Emeka. There's not like the hot one in the club and all that, but like all of a sudden you're like, I just trust this one, and there's like a lot. There's so much more good to it than just like a 40 time. So I think Egbuka is going to go.
Does a 3rd running back sneak in the 1st round? I think we feel comfortable with Genty and Hampton, but does Henderson make it? Is there anyone at the bottom of the 1st round that feels so good about a running back? I would think not, but I guess it's possible.
TreVeyon Henderson's getting a lot of love. I'm not saying he's going to go in the first, but I have talked to some teams that think Henderson could go before Hampton.
Wow.
I've talked to other teams who think because it's so deep at running back, it's going to be Genty at some point, and then both those guys, Hampton and Henderson, go in round 2. I think you're going to see minimum 5 go in the first 2 days of the draft, probably 6, maybe 7. And then I think you're going to see another 25 guys. It's like 2017. Remember that class? It was like Leonard Fournette, Christian McCaffrey. On day 2, it was like Alvin Kamara and a bunch of good guys. But there were only 5 guys taken in the top 85 picks that year. And 25 guys went from a pick. And then 2 more went in before 90. But from pick 105 until the end of the draft, which is like pick 252, and in those last 4 rounds, there were 23 running backs drafted. I think it's going to be a lot of the same this year. But the Hampton thing is, if it's not Denver, I wonder where Hampton's going to go.
Like his total of 19.5 there is juiced pretty heavily to the over, and I'm not afraid of laying the price there with you, because like you
lay
said,
that price.
No one's going to take him before 19. Again, if Denver doesn't take him, that's a winner. So again, it's the draft betting strategy where
that should be easy. That should be easy. I like Hampton at over 19.5. Get that in before you air this show.
Yeah.
It's minus 300.
I will do that. I have very few places I can get down in the state of Connecticut on this, but I will. One of the things I wanted to ask you, because you see it on social media a lot these days, is like, how do you balance between being the draft analyst, the information you get, the relationships you have with, like, there are people out there who are just like, oh, why would he give us real info? Like this morning, for example, Peter Schrager's report about the Giants and the Browns are entertaining picks on teams that want to trade up, and people are like, yeah, of course they are. No one's going to want to trade up to 2 or 3. Like, how do you balance all that? Like, with the information that, hey, you can't say it, but, and then like the other information you get to kind of do your job, I guess is the best way to put it.
You learn over time. There are certain things when someone's like, this is between you and me, or like, and you've never once, and you never will once hear me say, well, I talked to this team specifically. And I also, like, Joe Douglas and I went to college together. We're family friends. I've known him for 100 years. You know what I never did with Joe Douglas, nor would I ever do, and you would never do this with who you take. We just talk.
I know, because I asked you.
Like, we just talk ball, and it's the same with everybody else in the league. And people are just curious, and we're kind of setting our board and looking. And like, a lot of the conversations are just talking players and like what you saw, and then a lot of the conversations like this in this 2-week span leading up are. And I've said this before. My information oftentimes doesn't come from the answer I'm getting when I'm talking to people. It comes from the questions they're asking me. So if I'm talking to a person from a certain team and they're asking me a lot of questions about the interior defensive lineman, and they're picking in the middle of the first round, and then they're asking me questions about the wide receivers, but they didn't ask me a single question about offensive linemen, quarterback, you know what I mean? So you learn where to get the information from. And plus the fact that when it comes to having these conversations, like, this is fun for me because I'm trying to put the board together. I'm getting all this information, and I'm like, I love doing this, talking about it. But at the end of the day, it just takes one team. Like, think about I go back because I don't want to bring anyone currently into it. But like the stories Mike Lombardi used to tell me about, he could smell the cologne and hear the swishing of Al Davis coming down the hallway, right? And he had this entire personnel staff, and they would spend 15 months on players. They'd stack the board, and then he'd walk in like an hour before the draft and be like, let's take the guy who ran the 4.32, and that's it. So my point in saying all that is, like, while we're playing the percentages and have a lot more information than most people do, it just takes one. And so I don't ever feel bad sitting here having these conversations, or because ultimately, like, it's a lot of fun to go through this process, but it's not as if we have an answer to a test that is definitive,
I know you got to run here, so we'll end quickly with this. One name that might be floating around the end of the first round that maybe people can wager on with some plus money that could sneak up. Is it the UCLA linebacker? Like, who's the guy you think that might sneak in the first round that we don't know about?
Yeah, I have heard Schlesinger, the linebacker from UCLA. Let me give you two other names. Mason Taylor, tight end from LSU. I think I don't want to say underutilized, just wasn't used as much like intermediate down the field, but has the talent to do that in the league. I think there's a greater upside, and he was a great player, clutch player. But I think teams in the league are looking at him as someone who could provide more in the passing game than he was asked to do it at LSU. I look at Philadelphia, Dallas Goedert, that situation. That would be a potential landing spot at the end of the first. But there are some other teams that are a little hotter on Mason Taylor. JT Tuimoloau.
There you go.
It took me 3 years to say it right, too. Don't worry about it.
It's a long shot, but this is a year where it's not a ton of elite players. GMs are looking for starters, guys that are proven. He got better as his career went on. He's played a lot of ball, 4-3 traditional defensive end. He's just a damn good football player. And I think there are some teams that are looking at him a lot higher than maybe the public has any idea. And I think we get in those like picks 26, 27, all the way to 32. And you're looking for a starter at defensive line, an impact player. May never be like stacking years of double-digit sacks. He's going to get you like 7 to 9 bat down passes, great versus the run. I think JTT is a guy that if you're trying to get like a balloon, this big odds to be in the first, I don't know what they are or if there even are out there, but if you get a chance to just take a little hack at that, I would.
Todd, we could do this for another hour, but I know you got things to do and people to see. Where can we find you this week? I know you got a lot going on.
Yeah, I mean, we've got shows all week, but I think the thing I'm most excited about is we're doing a live stream. We came out to LA, not going to freeze in Green Bay. Did that, as we talked about in Chicago. Did that in Cleveland. Remember that year? But Thursday night of the draft, we're doing 3 straight days live streams. But Thursday night, come join us. It's an hour before, so 7 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to be on live stream for an hour before, giving all the last minute information. If you're looking to make a little at the end, like I'm going to lay it all out before that first pick, before Roger Goodell comes to the podium. And then we're going to live stream the whole first round. So come join us there. And then Saturday, we're invading Marcillo's house from 3 to 5 Eastern time. Yeah.
He's going to lay NBA playoffs and draft a double screen.
That was the first question he asked when I told him we want to come steal your house for 2 hours. He's like, when are we going to be done? I got the playoffs that night. I was like, we'll be just fine. So from 3 to 5, we're doing a live stream to review kind of the whole draft and just have a lot of fun hanging out at his house.
Yeah, I am in for 7 acres. If you remember, a couple of years ago, we had the Will Anderson and the Stroud and all that stuff, and there were a lot of things locked in and a lot of prices and a lot of money to be made. Todd, appreciate you, my friend. We'll talk again soon.
Great talking to you guys. See you, Geoff.
Thank you.
Bear Bets full episodes drop twice a week right here on the Bear Bets YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe to stay ahead of the odds, and let's celebrate all of our wins together.